trails, because for the most part, they're not running lakes.
I'm running through 22.
Okay.
So I'm logged in. So what's the quickest way for me to check? Okay.
I guess the Stanley Cup Finals are over.
Yeah, I could go to the hospital now.
Do I have to sit next to you? Scuzzy?
/proc/scuzzy/scuzzy.
Let's do that or Joey.
Okay.
I might just stay them all.
Yes, it's fine. This looks like a copy or DVD, that's not.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. WBC.
That's the Western.
Yeah. That's the other one, so.
Just curious.
Let's check. Steve, we missed you on Saturday.
Yeah. I didn't feel like going.
Okay. Rocky was here.
Yeah.
Blake was there.
I'd rather meet her in, Rocky's done that too.
Ice cream social today. Started working. I did have ice cream. You go to the brewery afterwards?
Maybe, here's what I feel.
Once you do a wireless access, you're gonna show the movie.
I have it loaded.
All right.
You want that last?
No, well,
I'll do it. It is color coding there.
yeah, I'll give the
The
actual
question
chance.
was what Samsung SSD drive. And I checked my system at home. Oh. To check my desktop system, which does not. I have my laptop, which I forgot to bring tonight. That has the SSD. Give me your email or send me some email.
Okay. All right.
I'll check it for you.
Okay. I mean, we're bugging Samsung, but they haven't acknowledged.
Right. Okay.
Could be a driver bug, it could be a firmware bug.
Oh, is it? Oh,
Not on Reddit, but it's over the.
well,
subnet.
okay. Oh, the H50 Pro?
Well, it's the Samsung SSDs. I guess it's the latest firmware. I don't know. I read about it earlier today.
Okay.
It's like the third post. On
All right.
It's getting attention.
Okay.
Usually I start the speaker around 7:15, meeting like that, because we always have stragglers. Kurt, maybe I'll start you a little bit closer to 7 than
Yeah,
my usual 7.
DeLacy wanted to talk at the end, so so we may have, it might go a little more.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
Yep. Very interesting. Thank you.
maybe we make it for DeLacy, the last speaker has to buy at the brewery.
Exactly. But he can't go past 9:30,
Mhm.
right?
Well, really 9 o'clock, because you gotta get to the brewery and they close their kitchen at 10, so you're gonna get there early enough.
Food court, we close that during the day.
student cluster competition. Hosted that before, so. Yeah.
It's gotten much bigger in recent years.
Yeah, at the time when Kevin Gleason was trying to pull this with PSD.
Yep. You got Baker's racks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had actually plastic tubing.
Yep.
School that had the money.
I think the question is who's really building the clusters, because at least at ISC, I know you go back to commercial, except for us.
Yeah.
We were the only team that can build clusters from scratch. All the rest of the tools were using commercially first, which is not a good thing as far as I'm concerned, education.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of these brands, it was Magware.
Right.
Yeah.
But even so, I mean, kids were building it. Well, I call them kids. I know they're not.
Yeah.
They are compared to me. But I mean, they were building them.
I guess I should ask, were you having your own chips for your?
No, we didn't have our chips. I mean, they didn't even have the boards. They weren't only reconstructed. Huh? Well, that's supposed to be what they do. And that's the way we play the game. But that's not the way most people. Oh. You still have them?
That's one of the best things to do. Still see what's good.
I think it was a great experience for our students. Tremendous. We did not win first prize, and we didn't expect to. But I thought I had a really nice experience with everybody there. I mean, I talked to students from a lot of schools. And they were not, well, they didn't have the knowledge that students had, not by a long shot. Even when they were done.
Schools rely on the vendors for roofs and libraries and all that as well.
Yeah, they were all Intel, right? Every one of them except for us. We all went on Intel group. We were running the MD. Opteron.
Couple things just reminded me. I got an email from somebody who wants to sponsor pizza for our meetings. And we'll talk about it. We generally don't like to have food at our meetings. What? And the other thing, talking to Christoph about getting someone that can talk about System D intelligently.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, is somebody that knows System D, knows a little bit about history, and can talk about it without being involved in, a number of things. Because it's a big topic of discussion, and when you get, a lot of old line system admins, came up with System 5-Net, and they like that, and whys and wherefores, and someone who can back himself up. So, but I want somebody that knows what he or she is talking about.
That is quite the war.
Yep. It is.
There's gotta be some Red Hat people in the Boston area.
Oh, yeah, I'm working with Christoph Torbeck, works for Red Hat. He does our Linux soup presentations annually. He's done this for a number of years. And I know a few other people that he would be recording. Yeah, because I don't want some pre-sales person who really doesn't know. I want somebody that can talk to developers and stuff.
Nope, he's one. I don't know. Right on it, but
I guess the developer, I guess. Yeah, sorry.
Where's he based?
Oh, really?
Where?
You overseas?
It's in Germany. He's in Europe. Yeah, he's in, Germany, Pottering.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I should not volunteer somebody else, but have you thought about Chuck
Anderson?
Anderson?
I haven't. I mean, Chuck's been here before. We talked about IPv6 one time with Chuck, and he comes to the meetings occasionally.
But have you noticed he's really good at answering questions on the discussion group?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he knows what he's doing, and he's pretty much running the systems at Whoopi.
Yeah, I know that.
So he might be a good speaker.
I'll
It's
ask
just a
him.
thought. He'll probably be pissed at me for mentioning his name, but
What's your name?
I'm not speaking. No, I'm Irv Englander. He knows me, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Well, I'll approach him. You know, sometimes it's difficult for him to get in here from Worcester at night.
I know.
Ideally, you want.
Well, he lives in, it's right on the Wakefield-Stoneham line.
Yeah.
So,
Ideally, you want someone. You want someone who is pro-System D and someone who is anti-System D. Or better yet, you want someone who is at least somewhat close to being neutral.
so you realize that you've hinted at the idea that it's not a technical issue at all, it's totally political.
I doubt it's totally political, but there is an awful damn lot.
I agree, which is why I said what I just said.
Well, change is difficult. I mean, I've dealt, as a developer, I wrote my own version of a NIT back in about 1980. And those days it was run by TTYs.
Yeah.
Was before a NIT tab, and we had intelligent terminals that we had to do some firmware loading for. And I came up with something similar to System 5 init before I knew anything about System 5 init. This was before System 5. And, but, you know, it was more, and that was anything exciting. So we'll probably have a few more people come in, but I think Kurt will start. Everybody knows Kurt, Kurt Kevel, who is, I don't even know your title.
Well, I just passed Jerry as the most frequent speaker at BLU. He had
well, congratulations.
on 18 of them. Thank you for all that database work to determine that.
Usually I get to speak on something when we can't get to speak.
So although it still lists me as a thaumaturgical engineer at the C, MIT no longer has a CRC. In fact, I don't think the NIH has any CRCs. So
Well, send me an update and I'll update it.
I will. Will it backdate me to all 17 presentations? Or
Oh yeah, the bio is part of the person table, not the event table.
good. Okay. Well, so I have the quick portion because I'll give you guys all the background on the student cluster competitions and why we run the HPC codes we do and why we do them the way we're doing them. It's an interesting collection. So you may wonder why there's a solar Stirling engine up here. stay tuned. This is why it's competitions with S. So they started this in supercomputing 2007, and it was in Reno, and this was the first of many power outages and supercomputing to come. So this was a good place to get comfortable with student cluster competitions. Our consortium sent in a proposal. In 07, we were going to take a PsyCortex system to supercomputing and run their codes on a PsyCortex box, if you guys know anything about that system. This was in the days that they didn't tell you the applications before you sent your architecture proposal in. So hopefully there wasn't anything that was going to be counterindicated, because everything should run on PsyCortex. Well, anyway, we didn't get accepted that year. The organizers of Student Cluster Contest were National Labs employees, mostly Sandia and Oak Ridge guys. Brent Gorda was one of the founders of this, Ricky Kendall, if you know him. So they wanted to make some partnership with a .edu type, and they were .gov or .mil types, and they wanted to run their production codes mostly for the academic exercise of an undergraduate student cluster contest, but also with the hope that people would get familiar with their codes or possibly improve an algorithm or find some inner loop that they could optimize. And that's definitely true now. The codes we're seeing at supercomputing are production codes that they're hoping to get some insights into with either new hardware or perhaps some new eyes, a bunch of undergraduates, or possibly a huge team at a big university to look at these codes. So the first year we did go was 2008. This Maytag repairman we have back here, they should really call this the student cluster shipping competition, because if you have to ship your own cluster, it's a huge disincentive to attend. This one, because SC08 was in Austin, we had a relationship, MIT had a relationship with Dell, and it was their AMD point of contact in particular that we had a contact with. And Dell and a lot of other vendors like to announce new products at supercomputing. So I think this was the day that they announced the Barcelona. Do I have the right part number of that? Maybe Athens processor. So the Saturday before the Monday of the student cluster contest, we went down there, and some box that was still warm came in, and we put processors in this Dell cluster. So, and I forget the Dell part number, but everything was with PowerEdge or something back then. So that was, and it worked okay. I'll show you the codes we had to run that year. By this time, they had figured out all the application code problems. What they hadn't figured out was the grading rubric. So we ran our von Neumann game analysis on how to beat the system, because we're MIT guys and we do that to everything. And we made some horrible mistakes, like we said, okay, well, LINPACK only costs like 1/20th of what everything else costs. So we ran LINPACK for like 5 minutes and submitted our results, and then started in on the other codes. Well, we didn't do very good on the other codes, so we should have spent more time with LINPACK. So SC09, we didn't have a team, but this guy here, Aaron Hellman, he was on the 08 team, and Stony Brook is one of these teams that goes to like every student cluster contest. They were at like 5 in a row. They were certainly at the first one. I don't think he was a grad student at Stony Brook for a while. Occasionally comes up here and helps us out. They won. There were 9 teams at the Portland competition. Part of my job at MIT is to do undergraduate student team competitions. So I was over at Disruptive Technologies doing the Data Center of the Future competition, which was only like one undergrad. But so student cluster competition is much more fun. By the way, PsyCortex ended up shipping a box with a team, 08 actually. So if you guys ever saw the PsyCortex demo, they were a local company. They set up a PsyCortex system in Building 32 in the big TSMC lobby of this data center, and they ran it off of bicyclists. Well, they did that in Austin too, and one of the bicyclists was Armstrong. Am I saying the name right? Lance Armstrong. Yeah. So because he had a shop close to the convention center, and so they got their bicycles out and ran the PsyCortex system off of. So we were allowed 3 kilowatts. They were running the PsyCortex system off of 8 bicyclists. It wasn't 3 kilowatts. It was a much more reduced system. So it was too bad. The Psycortex had a system going to someplace in Texas and went through Austin to deliver that. And it's too bad that company went away because they were cash positive. They just it didn't look like their future was all that promising. So the Massachusetts computer business had a chance to come back that year, didn't make a comeback, or the HPC specific business. We didn't compete in 10 either. The reason I'm throwing this slide up here is most perpetual SEC teams like Purdue and Colorado and Texas, they have a cast of thousands. The people that get the shirts, the competition shirts, are 6 predetermined undergrads. But this guy here, he's like the .edu part of the team now. He's an organizer now. He has occasionally brought Purdue teams to this. He brought a Purdue team to the Asian supercomputing competition. He's now an organizer, so I don't know if we'll see Purdue teams anymore. They're not allowed to come if they've got an organizer on the masthead. The Colorado guy was a judge or something last year, so we didn't see Colorado last year, but I think we'll probably see, Stony Brook, Colorado, Purdue in some context in the future. But that's so this is what it looks like. You get 6 people that actually have to go behind the table and run the equipment, and then everybody else you can bring into the vendor's room and have them. They can't help. Once the green flag is thrown, you can't go behind the counter. I'll show you some pictures of that. So this was our first BU submission. We got sponsored by Silicon Mechanics. So like I say, we would not have been able to afford to go if we had to pay to show the cluster. It's easily the biggest cost. So Silicon Mechanics said, don't worry about it. We'll build a cluster for you according to your specs. Look at the applications, tell us what you want for hardware. And then at the end of it, they'll raffle it off. It's called a research grant. So some other university that writes a compelling paper on why it would be a good asset for their EUCS department will win this cluster. So BUs and our broader consortium, we started going by the moniker MGHPCC. So the Massachusetts Green High Performance Computing Center's research consortium is MIT, Northeastern, BU, Harvard, and UMass. So when we started putting these teams together that had more than one school represented, we were representing the Massachusetts Green High Performance Computing Center. And they have, for those of you that aren't familiar with this facility, the universities are trying to move a lot of our energy-intensive computing out to the city, and Massachusetts has got the cheapest electricity. It's like 7 cents a kilowatt hour out in Holyoke. So that's where they built the Massachusetts Green High Performance Computing Center. And it is a LEED Platinum facility. It is very much green. We're doing everything we can to get the most flops per watt on big iron systems. I think it was very, very far-seeing and very noble to worry about that on standard track systems. We look at it all the time on commodity track systems, but here's a huge data center that's actually counting ergs and joules and kilowatt hours. So we 2013 we actually fielded 2 teams. Our first BU, this is the Northeastern rep on that consortium. He was like our first Northeastern guy. And that was standard track, so that's big iron, 3 kilowatts, design your own cluster, but it's got to be, 3,100 watts or less. Generally speaking, you look at the application list and you have a pretty good idea of what you're going to put in your cluster, especially if there's a code there that there's only a CUDA port for, you're going with NVIDIA cards. That describes probably 3 of the last 4 student cluster contests. This was the other Northeastern team. Bentley started getting involved with the commodity track. This year at Supercomputing 2013, they introduced a new track, which was a lot like standard track insofar as you had to run the same application codes. But the wattage was about half. Instead of getting 2 20-amp services, of which you could only use 13 amps each, there's a little bit of failover trickery involved with them give you 2 house currents. They only gave us 1 house current. It wasn't on a plug strip. It was 15 amps. I mean, we were right around the hairy edge popping that circuit breaker. So we had to go through a bunch of decision criteria. Do we want to risk popping the circuit breaker and losing, and so that's a complete SPOF, a complete single point of failure outage, and then rebooting. So Northeastern's very good at checkpoint restart. So we ended up risking it. It's like, well, if we have to reboot the thing, we'll just pick up where we left off.
Can't you just run like a UPS?
Not on commodity track. So what they do on standard track is they give you PDUs, which are metered and capped. I mean, you cannot break the 3 kilowatt limit on there. They used to let you break it, and there was a grading rubric where you take a penalty. And so that was one of the big scoops we did, is we ran both at 20 amps, and we thought, we'll take the penalty. That turned out to be, we didn't quite understand the grading rubric, I think was our problem. Or they changed it, ex post facto. So the commodity track was very interesting, because you had to turn in the other restriction. Instead of there being 2 variables, power and flops and watts, we've got the third variable of you couldn't spend more than $2,500, and that was very hard to validate that. A lot of people were buying GeForce cards off of eBay and stuff, and they were coming in with this $10,000 system for $2,500, but it didn't slow Northeastern and Bentley down, because they won. So then the summer after this, the bulk of that team went to Leipzig, Germany, for the International Supercomputing. Now, I don't have a whole lot of good pictures for that, but they invited all the teams up on the stage. Northeastern Bentley was one of 2 U.S. teams, and since it was multi-school, we're still calling it Massachusetts Green Team. We've gotten away from MGH PCC, and actually we've gotten away from Massachusetts, since we're all in Boston and Cambridge. So now we're the Boston Green Team. Last year, 2/3 BU, 1/3 Northeastern. This was in New Orleans. I have a list of codes. I wanted to show you all of our various team incarnations. Here again, sponsored by Silicon Mechanics. When you ask Silicon Mechanics, for a particular board, you say, well, we need, FD and InfiniBand on there or something like that. You're getting an Intel board. If you say something like, well, we need PCI Express 16X, so there were all these things where they said, here you go. And they're all Intel-based boards. Even within a manufacturer like ASUS, we got some sponsorship from Microwave for the ISC, and we asked them the same question: can we get an ASUS board where we don't have to use up a PCI slot for Mellanox and InfiniBand, and we can stick to NVIDIA GPUs in there at full? Well, you don't have that option on an AMD-based board. At least you didn't a year ago. No change? Yeah. And we were looking, so what we ended up getting was, I think we could do 8X maybe on the PCI bus. So we were looking at K20s on the PCI bus. We couldn't get K40s on the bus. So it was interesting. Now, the choice of applications can completely determine what architecture you go with. That's certainly true for the competition we just came from. We didn't quite understand what we could request from the organizers of the Asian Supercomputing Conference. So we just said, we asked them so they say, well, check this off. We'll give you the stock cluster and any accelerators, any coprocessors. So we asked for, Winston will give you some details, but we asked for some NVIDIA K40s and a few Xeon Phis here and there. In fact, they were giving those away for free, if you'll remember. So we said, okay, well, when we get there, all of this stuff will just be there, and it wasn't. So we had a stock Inspur cluster. We had to run all of our codes CPU only, which was problematic. Winston's going to tell you about the Asian Supercomputing Conference trip. It's substantially different than the other student cluster contests. They organize it differently. Inspur is the 100% sponsor. You can't bring in your own design. You could, as it turns out, tell them you were going to bring Z boards with you, because Nan Yang brought some Z boards and just had them hanging off the Ethernet switch, which was kind of bizarre. So So the definition of a cluster was also kind of in flux, but we learned a lot about how to run NAMD and LINPACK on Zinc 7100s, and so I think we'll certainly be able to take advantage of that in a low power contest. So most of the contests we're looking at from here on out, even probably at supercomputing, are going to be much more low power centric contests, possibly even dominant, rather than raw power. For here's your power budget. How many flops can you get? I think it's going to be now. You get to determine both of them, but you got to report both your flops and your watts as a ratio now. So a lot of the other countries, I didn't mean to put OCONUS in there. Outside of the continental United States, that's everywhere else, but the stateside competition has kind of a pre-qualifier for the stateside student cluster competition. The ISC accepts, like this year, they accepted 9 teams that mailed the paperwork in, and the 2 winners of the ASC. The ASC happens in June, and in May, and the ISC happens in July. So the 2 top teams from the Asian Supercomputing Conference get a free pass to this conference. And the ISC is a lot like the SC insofar as you can ship your own cluster, you can work with a local vendor, and run your codes there. And they publish their codes well in advance of the conference as well, so you can make some sort of architecture decisions early. Mail your proposal in. If you get accepted, then you've got like 3 months to lock down your hardware, your architecture design, and mail that in. They require, at least supercomputing, they require your final architecture design to be delivered a month in advance of the conference. So November 18th about is the supercomputer conference, so October 18th we mail that in. What they've been doing lately in not just supercomputing, but these other ones is they're going to tell you the mystery app on the day you're supposed to run it. So like the last day of the student cluster contest is say Wednesday or a Thursday or something. They say, okay, this year's mystery app is X, and I'll have to ask the Northeastern BU guys. I think here was OpenPhone. So we kind of have a particular insight into that. The person running that, they always get a professor in to run the mystery app, was Professor Barba, who had recently left BU. So we had a good insight into that mystery app. And then this one here last year was HPCG. What was it?
No, that was ISC. Yeah, Enzo.
Enzo. Okay.
It's particle. It's astrophysics.
Okay. So if you're really if you're
Loaded to the bat. The flying bat.
Oh yes, no, flying snakes.
The flying snake,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That was OpenPhone.
Huh?
So if you're really on top of things, you get smart on all these codes, because invariably one of them is going to be the mystery app. There's not that many codes out there at the national labs. Although every now and then they come across something that I've never heard of before. The guys from Oak Ridge, I think, wanted pFlowTran. Wharf. This I'll have Winston tell you about the codes we had to run at the conference we were just at in China. So last year we had a soft opening of bringing some sort of commodity track competition back to Boston, having like a pre-qualifier, like South Africa has a pre-qualifier. The ISSC, the Indian Supercomputing Conference, which is going to happen probably in December or possibly January 2016. So pretty soon there'll be these pre-qualifying events where the schools from that particular country will pick one guy to go. In the case of the South African Conference, those guys always go to ISC, but we don't really have any pre-qualifiers for SC. So I was thinking, this is a local conference. IEEE HPEC, High Performance Extreme Computing, and it's in Waltham in in September. Used to be a Lincoln Labs only conference, but it's a full IEEE conference now. You see some pretty interesting embedded stuff at this conference. A lot of novel SOC designs. People showing up with embedded boards that are robust, and sometimes everything's in the same package or die or system in place. So we're going to see possibly even this year in September if we can get some. It's probably going to be more of a hackathon than a competition. I think we'll just get all of the teams that have a vested interest in this. Like say we're all working on some project together at Holyoke to work on the codes, and whatever team is going that year, then we'll help them out. I mean, we're substantially going to do that with Northeastern this year. So this is the solar-powered supercomputing contest, which is the one we're working on right now. There's 2 BU students that are still around this summer, and they are on the team. We have a couple of interns from West Point that are on the team. We just did our first deliverable for this, and that was the design documents. We mailed those off. If we win, they give us $10,000 to build the system. If we don't win, we already bought about half the parts anyhow, so we're going to build some portion of it, and it's almost certainly going to be, we're going to work with Ed Romer, who's, wherever it is, over here. Going to have, we'll be, as soon as we hear back, mid-July, go, no go, we're going to plan the solar supercomputing construction project down in Cape Cod sometime in August. Now, it's much more of a solar contest than a supercomputer contest, because at this point, especially with the commodity parts, we know how to build small embedded devices that are, you know, we can seal them and bury them or something so that they're at least as robust as the solar part. So we've had a lot of BLU occasions here where we've had solar powered supercomputing build-outs. And 3 years ago when we started doing stuff like this, there wasn't a whole lot of supercomputing that you could do. This was like a $700 panel that wouldn't generate. This was probably, that's 48 Panda boards. I think we were at 200 watts with that. Well, even in the best of occasions, we needed a battery. We had a Xantrex battery with an inverter. So we charged this for like a day before we ran any apps on this. And this was 3 years ago. It's come a long way since then. But we had the same team. Here's our Northeastern representative, West Point representative. I think, where's Federico, a graduate of? He's Boston College, right? So anyway, we've got this guy didn't even graduate high school, so he doesn't count. So for this Invenio competition, we did a literature search to see what we could adapt from the gear that we already had. This thing here is called a Luminaire. Virginia Tech bought some old dish antennas and got some chrome paint, and they're concentrating light, and they've got some clever way to run it down an Omni Guide fiber optic, and then I think they're just using it for light. But we're going to adapt it and see if we can use it for power, because you guys may know this thing on Mem Drive. That's 12 by 12 bathroom mirrors. You can buy bathroom mirror in long sheets, and it's not quite a parabola, but the bottom of the base of a parabola looks an awful lot like the base of a sphere. So as long as you don't care about the rest of the parabola, this part works pretty good, and it works really good when it's pointed at the sun. So, which I will show you here soon. And I don't know if we'll go with this form of solar Stirling. We're going to go. We're certainly going to concentrate our PVs that we're using, at least in the documentation that we send into the competition. We'll take 5x and 10x concentrations, as long as you can find some way to strip off IR, get the heat out of there or something. Even if you don't strip it off, as long as you can find some way to keep it cool. So we designed, this is a truck inner tube. We found some way to, I don't know if you guys have seen those Zodiacs that auto-inflate. So we found a guy that had those cans, and you can auto-inflate this. This is Mylar that doesn't stretch, but we found some like gold lame that was shiny enough to reflect the sun, and we're trying to find some way to seal that so that when these things do inflate, there's a partial vacuum there, and it'll create that little torus thing that you can use for PV. So we'll try this summer, because we got a bunch of this. We'll try this too. So frontal lens into a prism. There's the PV, and like most really good triple junction PV, it's black. So if we could find some clever way to keep this at the right distance from this, shoot the IR low and the UV high, that'll take out a lot of the heat generating frequencies. Now, we know where the sun's going to be, at least for the next million years. So we could automate this or not have a photo sensor and have it chase the sun like our big one on MEM Drive did. But we don't really know if this is going to be all that robust. A good stiff wind coming off the head of the Meadow Beach might take this out. So we're going to find out, because this worked out pretty well. It took out at least half of the energy of the heat generating content. So anyway, here is a huge frontal lens. This is 41 by 31 inches, and it's about, I guess, a half a meter squared. So if you get a meter squared frontal lens, we had to do all this analysis for the paper that we submitted. You can get a kilowatt per square meter at the equator, which is, all of our numbers were based on the equator. It's tough we needed to shorten the stance so that the focus was actually on the ground, but it's easy to find the focus once you stick in there. And what we were thinking of doing with this, the guy with the black shirt, don't wear black shirts around solar concentrators. So this was our solar Stirling experiment. If you're a course 2 graduate, Irv can tell you this, one thing you have to do to graduate from course 2 at MIT is build a Stirling engine. So when you have to machine the whole thing, it's very much of a big deal over mechanical engineering. You have to go in and you get to put your name on it, and you use all the CNC tools and all that. So we could once we could find the focus, we could put the focus on the hot end of the Stirling engine, and that wasn't sufficient to get the thing turning. What we really needed was a longer condenser tube. So what we did was, you can't really do an MIT hack without liquid nitrogen. So we ran over to one of the buildings that leaves their dewars out overnight, and we grabbed a big dewar of liquid nitrogen. And so if you see smoke coming off of this end, it's because the paint job is burning off. But if you see smoke on this end, that's liquid nitrogen. So, which certainly didn't stay liquid very long. So our delta T here was a couple of degrees. We couldn't, it was too windy, and we could have done it inside, but we wouldn't have gone anywhere near the sun. See all the paint job burning off. Anyway, so I'm just gonna hand this off to Winston now, because we're getting a little off topic. But we're gonna try the solar Stirling. We can do concentration very cheap. A frontal lens like this costs 50 cents. That big half a square meter one was probably 150 bucks from Edmunds Optics. So frontal lenses are much easier to work with than the huge 12 by 12 concentrators, glass mirror concentrators. It's just that we got 2 of those, so we may bring one down to the Cape anyhow. We've got plenty of mirrors. Anyway. So Winston, Winston's head of the BU team. Well, he's head of the solar powered supercomputing team right now, and he was one of the participants on the Asian supercomputing conference, and then he was on the supercomputing team in Northeastern led the New Orleans conference in November. So we'll hook you up with HDMI. Do you need?
Yeah, so I didn't bring the right converter, so it doesn't.
Well, there's this. Well, you don't need audio with HDMI, right?
Well, if you want to hear the amazing music.
All right, well, we'll just put it on as loud as you can. Is that the same?
Yeah.
Okay, you go with that. And then we'll toggle you around.
Your mention of don't wear black shirts around solar concentrators.
Yeah.
Did anyone actually get in trouble in some way with that?
So we did a little bit of analysis on this. Wood catches fire quite famously at Fahrenheit 451, or maybe slightly off from 451.
Actually, it's Celsius 451.
So almost everything we stuck in there that wasn't pure white immediately ignited. I mean, we threw everything in there. It was like a David Letterman show. We took a bowling ball, it's like we did a little bit of everything. Right. So we might have to laptop HDMI. Let's see. Is that you? No, that's still me. Can you do VGA?
There's no port for VGA on this.
HDMI. Should be VGA.
It's probably it's VGA.
Well, but this is VGA though. Do you have a direct HDMI connection that we can put that guy in?
Yes. Oops. Looks great.
It's only on one screen, not both.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, just hit that. Hit that.
Yeah, there's a center screen shortcut on the right-hand side.
I think that's where we are. Let's just do, let's just go with what we have.
Where is the cluster?
All right, I'm Winston Chen. I'm a rising senior at BU studying computer engineering. So I was one of the members of, I guess, the Boston Green team now. So from the left to right, Kirk Kevel, obviously. Next one is Quentin, Scott, Nico, Reed, and then they're holding me. Oh. And then the two on the right were our student advisors that were supposed to guide us. They didn't let us go anywhere. They didn't trust us. Also, we had two other members that helped us on the way. Dean Shai, he's over at BU. He originally was supposed to be on our team to go into China, but he couldn't make it due to conflicts with his internship. And Tushar, who was part of our SCC 14 team, he was also registered for this team, except he went to Asia during that week. So we decided to bring on two brand new students that know nothing about this competition and try to teach them as much as we could. So this competition has like a qualifying round to make the top 16. And the qualifying round had about 152 teams signed up to participate. How many actually participated, I'm not sure, but I think there was a good amount still. So for the preliminaries, they gave us 3 applications to run. NAMD, which was also the application of SCC, HPL impact, and they gave out something called gridding, which is part of the square kilometer array. So the square kilometer array gridding is a completely new thing that China is trying to try out for their competition. It's similar to like all other applications, except for this application, there was a specific rule where you can make modifications to the source code, but only one function. And that function had to deal with how these so actually, let me go back and explain what this project is, and then that might help. So the square kilometer array is a project that is sponsored by a bunch of countries. China is one of them. And the goal is to make a giant square kilometer of different giant cameras aimed at the sky in Australia and South Africa, I think. I'm not sure about South Africa, but Australia is their first target. And right now, this project won't be completed until 2020. And the purpose of these cameras is to collect as much information as they can about the the universe. As far as I know, that they're trying to take pictures through infrared, ultraviolet, etc. And what they gave us for the application was a specific part of their entire algorithm. And the specific part we got was to combine all these images into one giant image so that they can analyze and use that for whatever research that they want. So I think the two biggest things that they were targeting was like the beginning of the universe with Big Bang and then dark matter. At least that's what they advertised. So for preliminaries, the code was very limited in what we could modify in that specific function. We weren't allowed to use OpenMPI because if we were able to, we would have to modify some of the code outside of that function, which was already against the rules. And they gave us a lot of a giant list of what people try to do outside of the code and said that all this was illegal. So, but we didn't do any of that. So I was in charge of gridding, and so what we did was offload to some MKL libraries and try to get working on their on some Xeon Phis. Compiling for the Xeon Phis was kind of difficult. I tried to get through that, but I was able to get working on using the NAPKNO libraries, Intels. And so the original code on the left, it ran about 203 seconds with a gridding rate of 261. When I added in MKL, I managed to reduce the running time down to 160 and have a much higher gridding rate. The function I used was a vector scalar function, and surprisingly, it reduced by 40 seconds. And it was just a shot in the dark and it worked. So that was great. So for the preliminaries, it was about a month and a half from February to middle of March. And that's when we ran everything. I helped out with LIMPACK, mostly linking with the libraries. One of my teammates finished the run for LIMPACK while I went back to work on gridding. And another teammate worked on NAMD specifically. I think he was able to get it working on multiple nodes, but I'm not sure how well we did on that. I know for gridding that we did pretty well. I think the best team in the preliminaries had a 60% improvement rate in the running time and the gridding rate. And then we qualified for finals, made the top 16. We found out in April, and then we were trying to get out visas in time for that. So in the finals, it was a completely different experience than what we had stateside. Besides these, they gave us 3 new applications, Calibos, Wharf Chem, and HPCG. HPCG is the newest benchmark that they're trying to push out. LIMPACK is still the current one, but they're trying to make HPCG into the next possible LIMPACK. So the structure of this final was, we had 4 days total. The first 2 days, we were supposed to set up our entire computers. For us, we went to we decided on all mostly CPU heavy architecture, mainly because we didn't really have experience in OpenCL. We have teammates that have experience in CUDA, but we didn't want to bring in like any NVIDIA GPUs because we didn't want to get like slowed down during airport because we were already gonna be at the finals late. We got there like it was like midnight or something, and then the competition started next day right at like 8. So we decided to go with all CPUs. So these Intel Xeon E5s, these were the stock CPUs that they gave us. It was like the only CPUs that they had, so we chose one of that. We had 10 nodes total. We decided to have 2 extra nodes as experimental because from our experience from SC, we had 8 nodes, and we weren't able to run all of it. So, and we decided to go with 8 CPU nodes. Hopefully we could run all of that, which we were able to, and we were under the 3,000 watt limit for the entire competition. And so when we were experimenting with the 2 extra Intel Xeon Phi nodes. So HPCG, one of my teammates specifically worked on this. I'm not 100% sure exactly what he did, but from the gist of it, we had, I think, 5 total workloads to, no, he had a bunch of benchmarks to run. And what he did was he had a shell script that tried to find all the compiler flags with GCC. We didn't have Intel ICC running at this time. So he had the script up to get all the flags that would give us the ideal optimized runtimes for each data set. And he ran each one for about approximately a minute to get an estimate on what he wanted. And he ran each benchmark sequentially so that he can determine each one. A note about this was it was very network intensive. We ran HPCG on Ethernet, and it was about like 10 times slower than you would have run it on InfiniBand. And then for Palbos, it was mostly finding the optimal cores across MPI. We had 5 workloads. The first 2 workloads, when we did test runs, we found out that it was optimal on 20 cores. The last 2, we were testing and trying to find the optimal core, but we didn't have enough time to finish those. So we ended up only completing the first 2 workloads while trying to find the optimal cores for the 34. So closing remarks, it was a very great competition. We learned a lot. We saw K80s, people putting a lot of K80s in their architectures, their computers on the first day, and that was pretty cool. We also saw a team with a Z board. They used that Z board to run Limpack, and they managed to get 11.92 gigaflops per second.
Teraflops.
Teraflops.
For a 3 kilowatt platform, of which apparently they weren't using all of it.
It win Limpack,
Yeah, by a mile.
11.9.
Yeah, so you divide that through and it's about 4 gigaflops a watt.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then also, so the rules for this competition are very different too. I remember sitting there when I was running the gridding code. I watched a team walk outside of a node. They just took out a node, walked outside, and I turned to one of my teammates and asked if that was legal. Because in a stateside, you're not allowed to make any hardware changes. So my teammate just turned off that 10th node, and that dropped. That gave us an extra 400 watt to like run extra workloads. That's about it. Oh yeah. So this is a closing ceremony video.
So while he's running the video, we'll set your computer up, Josh?
For a dream, hope continues. Try different.
Some nights I wish that my lips could build a castle. Some nights I wish they just fall off. But I still wake up, I still see your ghost. Oh Lord, I'm still not sure what I stand for. Oh, what do I stand for? ASC 15. ASC 15.
SC 大赛已经成功举办了4届，从第1届开始，我们有28支队伍报名参赛，然后每届参赛的队伍都以成倍的方式往上递增，到了今年这一届已经达到了152支，来自于6大洲。这些现象从一个方面说明 ASC 大赛的举办是成功的，这种模式也得到了越来越多高校的认可。
As you see the student challenge, here illustrating behind the optimizations that are achieved by these students are of very great importance to the spectrum iterations. Any savings in compute power that they achieve can be directly translated into saved energy, which obviously directly saves money, or in increased science for the same energy budget. So I'm very happy that so many students from all over the world are here today to optimize this very important algorithm for us.
Well, daddy's home, I can see the boy. Daddy's in this I'm sure, but anybody understands. But it's not gonna take off.
作为世界规模最大大学生超级计算机竞赛 ASC 超算竞赛，推动了各国及地区之间超级计算机青年人才的交流与培养。我们由衷地希望通过本次竞赛，进一步提高相关学科教学、科研和人才培养的质量和水平。
作为 AS 竞赛的发起人，我很高兴地看到有越来越多的专家、越来越多的高校参与到竞赛当中来。这说明 AS 竞赛在促进高三英语交流，在推动高三人才培养方面起到了积极的作用，也得到了大家的认可。
我是国防科学技术大学代表队，香港中文大学法律队，中山大学代表队，太原理工大学代表队。We're the Boston Green Team. Singapore Clear Technological University. 攻城有力，拼搏进取。Run like lightning, but ultimate dream.
无限核心，无限可能。Power discourse, power discourse.
王者兴亡，横扫天下。
Who made that video?
Somebody. It was not me.
Huh?
It was you.
No, I was just noticing its propaganda value.
If you were there, they had about 5 million cameras pointed at every single team, and it was just nonstop picture taking and video.
It's all about propaganda.
Well, they had
Good picture of Kurt though.
well, they had cranes and I mean like professional quality gear.
Big screen.
Just
Got one
shooting.
off.
Yes, there was a lot of.
You can see it up there.
Were they going
I
to
saw
do
your cursor for mine.
a competition for number of cameras per watt as well?
I was wondering about orchestras per watt.
Did you recognize the voiceover artist? I did the English voiceover at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite different.
Saw your picture too.
There you go.
Hey, it's a society that values peaceful computing, right?
Cool. Okay, so now we move from China, we come back to the part stateside, at C15, that's what we are looking at. So this year we sent out our proposal, and by the way, I'm Yashoki Dave. I'm a grad student at Northeastern University. I've been involved with the student cluster competition since like last 4 years now, since Kurt like pulled me in and kept me there. So I'm a PhD student, working with David Cayley at Northeastern. So starting with 15, so what's a fun thing here? So I'll just give you some team information that I have, and I'll go on with the students that they will introduce you about the topics that we have. So it's a regular competition, as had been in the last few years. I don't feel we'll have a video at the end of supercomputing. We never have. So to start up with, we are only Northeastern this time. We didn't have a lot of, when we started to put up a proposal, so no communication, and BU had already been to ASC, so we had to put it out this way. But still, we are there. The Boston team is still representing something out there. The members, Maddie Leisure, Spencer Hans, Trevor Gale, Tristan Sweeney, Carter McCardwell, Colleen Finnegan, Zach Marcus, and Tuan. 5 of them are here tonight. 4 of them are here. Some of them are on co-ops or something like that. Out of them, 6 will be there with the jacket. And we realized one of those things, like what Purdue does, and as Kurt pointed out, it's not the 6 who win the competition at all. It's the 600 behind them who have already set it up for them. The 8 months of prep time is something that these big supercomputing schools have with them. That's more important. So it's more for us to, like, last few years when we prepared for this competition, we had those 6 students and those 6 students only. And some people from the industry or something like a supercomputing group or HPC meetups helping us and talking to us. What we realized is that we need a bigger student base itself to propagate this thing, and perhaps the guys who don't go and get the green shirt or the t-shirt go next year. Okay, so these are 8 people. There are many people who are interested, who are trying to fiddle around with the applications. As for the advisors, Kurt, as always, the Boston lead here, he was scared this year. They might see his name and they might reject our team. But it didn't happen, luckily. We are there surviving. And our advisors, like my advisor, David Cayley, he's the faculty advisor. Me, there's one more, and 2 more persons. Sean Gong, he couldn't make it tonight, and Nick Matrice, who was a part of last year's ASC as well as supercomputing challenges, and he's agreed to be the advisor to get this guys through. With that, I'll just let Trevor take over and talk to you about what the competition is and our setups.
Hi, I'm Trevor Gale. I'm a rising sophomore Northeastern, and I'm the system admin for our supercomputer team. So just a little overview of the competition. The team is actually made up of 6 people. We have 8, I think, and only 6 of us will end up officially going. So our power limit is 3,100 watts, which is, I think, the same as it was in the past years. And the applications this year are LinPack, Trinity, Milch, Wharf, and then a mystery application.
I'll just add out here. Last few years, the competition has been set up in such a way that the LinPack used to be done as a separate score, and there used to be a LinPack award that was to be given out. So first day of the competition was always about running your LinPack and HPCC, the entire suite of HPCC. So that were your LinPack awards were given out on first or second day when the when the top 500 and the green 500 lists were announced in supercomputing and ISC. But since from this year, the major change is that LINPACK is not included as a standout kind of thing, but will be included in the final scores. Earlier, it was not done that way. Earlier, LINPACK was a standalone run. So if a team would realize that perhaps the rest of their applications could win them the award, and they saw someone already taking LINPACK home, they would not even run it. Let's not waste time, go with other applications, get them done, get good grading on that applications and the interview processes, and win the big prize rather than just getting a LINPACK award and moving ahead from that. So this year we have all the applications getting into the final score. So getting a good LINPACK score is also essential for the bid.
So I'm currently working on installing just like a test software stack on a couple of test nodes we have. I think they were left over from ISC a couple of years ago. So software stack right now is looking like we're going to run CentOS 6.6 and then use Werewolf to boot all the nodes statelessly and manage the operating systems. And then we're going to use Slurm for the scheduler and NFS to mount a couple of the configuration files in the home file, the home folder on all the different nodes so we can keep that consistent. And then for MPI, we're looking at Vapitch. I don't think we've actually decided exactly which one we wanted to use yet, but I heard from Nick that they like that one a lot. So yeah,
works well with event.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's good. Yeah, we were gonna look at that one first. I think that sounds good to me too. And then OpenMP.
The most there's no slide here, but I'll pitch it in. Yeah, we do not have a hardware. We have pitched in when we applied to the contest, they asked us to give a hardware proposal. So we came up with a hardware proposal. We tried to repeat what we tried to do last year, right? The AMD Optron plus an NVIDIA, but it didn't work out last year because with obvious problems of the PCIe that it does not support a K40X with an AMD solution on the CPU side. So coming to that, our acceptance to the competition was like they pinned us saying, try to get an AMD hardware this time. That's what they tried to push us to. So this time we are wondering of what should be a good application, like what should be a good hardware that we should take to the competition to satisfy, let's say, our parallelism demands as well as the CPU side compute and the accelerator. Showing up with each node having certain number of K40 GPUs might not help at all, because there are certain applications which will be having no support. Like if you have shown the applications slide by, yeah. Like LINPACK has GPU support. Trinity is more Java based, and getting that to a good solution on any GPU it is still battling. Getting Java solutions on GPUs, try to accelerate Java codes, it's still a battle that it's going on. And Wharf has one part of its code that can go on GPU. But that part is like out of the entire stack of subroutines that Wharf has, it's only this 2% that goes on the GPU. So can we even waste idle power on the node to just power that 2%? That's a kind of trade-off that we are evaluating, and we're still not. We're trying to find our answers as we go ahead, because the final proposal is due August. So there's a lot of learning time that we have that we can mix and match and try to learn what is happening. So that we'll go over the applications of what they are. Right? Let's do the next one first. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
First half, yeah.
So Nick, me, and Tristan here, we are responsible for LINPACK and scoring LINPACK big time. LINPACK is not something really new, not at all. It's the age-old application that has to run well, but it doesn't always. It's supercomputing. The history of LINPACK, I can say, let's go over something like importance. What is HP LINPACK, Atlas BLAS, Q BLAS, and CL BLAS? I'll just talk to you about it. LINPACK, as Kurt had said, everyone said, it's been around for the HPC Challenge Suite, as well as the top 500 scaling and Win 500 also. It's obviously used every year at supercomputing, and there's a highest LINPACK award at all the competitions. There was also one at ISC. There was one at ASC. I don't know about that.
There was.
There was one at ASC. Okay.
There was.
And in 2013, Jack Dongara, the maker of the LINPACK benchmark, came up with the thing that it might get out of the competition. We might see something else coming, but it didn't happen. Some of my slides are a bit old from 2013, so I have some numbers from 2013. So what we see here was that the progression of how many flops we get from LINPACK in each of the competitions. It's like from SE08 to supercomputing 13, we have gone up to like 8 teraflops. So the importance is growing up. And if I saw the last slide from Winston, it was the ASC went up somewhere like 11-ish. Yeah.
11.9.
Yeah.
11.9, yeah. And that too on the Z board.
Yeah.
We should stop doing this.
So they have some metering problems at ASC, I'm thinking. I mean, look at that. There's a couple of out of scale responses.
That's
Well, they were 10 at ISC. They hit 10 at ISC.
This cannot happen.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
So what we see is that on the right hand side, we have the people who get like the highest LINPACK and who won the overall championship and who got the second place. It doesn't mean that highest LINPACK will win you the entire award, because you might have a hardware tuned for LINPACK, but when it comes to real apps and you want the different apps, you might not have a port for your accelerator at all. People carried NVIDIA K40s, K20s, which were lying around, like literally doing nothing for certain applications last few years. So we have to try to avoid that situation and come back to a particularly intelligent CPU solution. And with AMD involved, we are not far away from thinking of an APU solution. So we are on that track, and let's talk about that more. So this is just numbers that how much it was in accelerators and total CPU cores used by each and every team that won, and the cluster memory that they had put up. Okay, so let's talk about some BLAS libraries, the beautiful ones, like the NVIDIA's cuBLAS library, very famous, very much used in each and every supercomputing competition. They have a separate build of HPL for cuBLAS, using cuBLAS. So that is only available if you are you can download it from NVIDIA's website. So it has all the BLAS 3, all the level 1, 2, 3 BLAS routines, as well as provides a lot of infrastructures present, and the online literature is there. There's a user community available. You can talk to people who have used it. If you have problems, you'll find solutions for cuBLAS, as well as NVIDIA is quite active with it. And NVIDIA's this is one of their major things when it comes to HPC. CLBAS. This is something which is very interesting. By the time we were in 2013 in the little fee competition, or maybe the track we won on, not the standard track, we carried an AMD APU based solution. We had 8 nodes of AMD APUs with a CPU and a GPU on chip itself. The reason why we got something out of it was that we used the GPU on there using CFBLAS for running LINPACK. So when it was a $2,500 solution, it worked really well for us. But when it comes to the big boys play, there has not been a big HPL support for OpenCL. And that's where the problem started coming. 2 years back, I saw a post on AMD's forums which said someone in Russia had created the LINPACK library for OpenCL using their CLBLAS, and had got these amazing numbers that they are posted there. This thread burned down to like 100 comments in forums and AMD people speaking to it. I got in touch with that guy this year, and he said to me that the LINPACK thing is ready, but it's not public as yet. I'm like, then can we get it? He's like, you have to talk to AMD to get it. So I spoke to it. We contacted AMD, can we get it? They say, if you have an NDA with us, you can get it. And we have an NDA with AMD since 2006. So finally, we have OpenCL BLAS, which is HP, and the entire HPL is built with it. So now finally we can look at a FirePro solution to take to this competition. So that is one interesting thing that has happened for us this year.
last I checked, I thought I saw CL Plus as open source solution.
It is open source. It used to be,
Yeah.
it used to be AMD's solution, and they open sourced it. So it was developed by AMD, and then they open sourced it. Yeah, they put it on GitHub. Yeah, I've been following that track, and it's a lot more sophisticated or developed and maintained well as compared to last few years. So, and so the good thing with this is that we have not tried it as yet with any NVIDIA devices, but our hope that we will carry forward LinkPack this year with a FirePro, mixed FirePro solution. So we might not put all our nodes with a GPU because it might not be of any use for us for the other applications, but some of them, yeah, sure. With that, I will pass on some things. So this is all about LinkPack that we are planning to do. We are at an early stage in the competition.
So wait, so have you, for the same operations, how does the OpenCL versus CUDA performance, is it similar?
It's not. It depends upon the device. Right now, we have not fit the correct FirePro in, but we are measuring it with. Right now, we have not put any device right there. We are planning to put a 7970 Southern Islands cards out there. So I hope that the performance will come similar to what a K20 delivers with 7970. With a new FirePro, which is like the GCN's latest version from AMD, might deliver something which is similar to K40. But there has to be, on the hardware side, they're capable of delivering. The problem is the optimization that cuBLAS does, like NVIDIA's effort over the last few years versus the effort put in this. So we might lose it by a fraction or two, but still trying to stay competitive. So I want to see my results, and perhaps maybe the next HPC meetup I can really talk about the results big time, because we are just setting it up right now. We just got the code at last from somebody.
I can tell you from double precision experience from working on both devices, working on K20s and working on 7970. I develop double precision electromagnetics codes. So they both use widely cuBLAS and CLBLAS. And I can say, you know, they're pretty comparable with double precision. Single precision, it depends. It depends on the size of the workload. It depends on how long you're running. So I'm running really long, like uncharacteristically long simulations on GPUs. GPUs are really, you know, load it up, blast it, load it back off. So that's really what LinkPack tests. And you try to find the right block size, the right amount of time to run, the right matrix size to optimize that. So it's really just a throw in, run it, get out. And that's the whole process in GPUs right now. And I think when people try to come up with a framework or an application that goes outside of that, they pay a price. So I think at that end, they're comparable devices, at least to me, in the double precision.
Okay, so I'm not Colleen. Colleen's on Carpet Miter right now. I'm Tristan. I'm a rising sophomore. Use the arrows. Okay, got it. I just did. So I'm just presenting her slides. This is MILK, which is MIMD lattice computation, which is multiple instruction, multiple data. Okay. So quick overview. Milk, or is it Milch? Milch, no.
It's milk.
Milk? Okay. Yeah, Milk is based on quantum chromodynamics, which is used for nuclear physics. It's a essentially it's working with not subatomic particles, but sub-subatomic particles. So what makes up protons, neutrons, neutrons and stuff. And yeah, it studies interactions and behaviors of particles. It's done in 4 dimensions. So to do that properly, you need to take a lattice, take the data and work it into a lattice, and then you have a linear array of the lattice that I think, from what I could understand, was essentially consider every single point in your computation, like a long time, as well as just in three dimensions. And it uses sampling techniques to generate gauge configurations, which are used to calculate a bunch of different atomic properties. A gauge configuration is basically a description of, I think it was a description of a quark, which is a sub-subatomic particle. And yeah, this is using high energy physics, basically just to figure out how the subatomic particles work based on their then subatomic particles. So it's a super technical benchmark, but it is very interesting. So I can't speak about all of these because some of these are talking about specific issues with milk and getting it to run efficiently on our setup. But yeah, it's MIMD, so you have separate linear arrays that are each running their own simulation from what I could discern, and if I'm wrong about that, just throw shit at me or something. But yeah, it's separate simulations for each linear array for each scenario you're considering. And it seems that we're allocating each array at runtime, but there are issues so far as allocating more memory than is actually needed for that, which is a huge issue. And yeah, that's all I could really figure out from the slides that she gave us.
Yeah. So are GPUs counterindicated here? I mean,
There are. They might be involved here. Okay. So I have looked a little bit into milk myself. So there's this code called CUDA, the Q. It's some sort of quantum calculations on CUDA. From what I can tell, I could probably guess that it's either some quantum Fourier transform or some other linear algebraic quantum calculation. I think that we should, or probably want to put some of that on the GPU. It's not going to end up on CUDA because we're doing everything in AMD. It would take more time to understand the calculation. My background in quantum mechanics, I mean, is good enough. I mean, I took an undergraduate course and I want to do that with my life, but I think it would take some time for someone to sit down with this code base and decipher, where can we pull out these calculations? Is there some inherent data and instruction parallelism that we can exploit? But I think it's largely numerical calculations. This thing is highly compute bound. There's some memory limitation. That just sounds like there's poor coding practice, to be honest. But that's par for the course. These are scientific codes. These are scientists. No offense to any computational scientists here, but I mean, traditionally, they like to think about the science before the computer science. So it's our job to sort of work through that and to port it to our architecture to take advantage of what we can. So I think given that, I think we can pull out some performance from this application. I think it's going to be one of the more oddball applications in the bunch. Quantum Espresso gave us similar problems. It's a molecular dynamics code that was run about a year ago at ISC. Another famous one, NAMD, does similar calculations. Again, it's really the electronic structure and these sort of calculations that seem to be incredibly compute intensive. So I think, to be honest, they're suitable for GPU. It just takes a long time to get them there.
So the more important part of like porting anything to the GPU is how do you manage the memory with your computer? Because it should not be such a situation that you take something small to the GPU, which gets done in respectively like way less time for computation, and your time was spent to just take data to the GPU. So that is one part where optimizations have to come into place. You have to overlap this transfer time with some computations, and that is where all the GPUs are trying. Like that's where the GPU problem struggles a lot. So we'll try to get there. Any really nice suggestions from your side will also be helpful for us who have experienced this code and we have experienced perhaps similar issues and or have worked with this code before. Then do contact us. I'll give you I'll write it down here after our presentation, and we can help. If any help is really invited here and appreciated. Andy?
Oh, right.
Hi everyone, I'm Maddie Legere. I'm also a rising sophomore at Northeastern, and the application that I'm working on is Trinity. Basically, Trinity is RNA sequences, and it's split up into 3 modules, which is where we're going to really have to focus on which modules are going to be the easiest to optimize. It was developed to take RNA sequence data and reconstruct it fully as transcriptome. I don't know. I'm not a bio person, but and it uses 3 separate modules that run sequentially. So the first one has to finish before the second one can start. 2 are in C++. The third one is in Java. Runs on the Java VM. It has a lot of support already for parallelism. It supports Slurm already. There's a lot of runtime options and flags that you can put in for like the number of CPU cores that you want to run it on, the maximum amount of RAM that you're going to let it run with. And it's got a really great documentation. Run on HPC systems already. So on the website, it's like, if your machine doesn't have 256 gigs of RAM, just go to one of these websites and run it here because it's going to take forever. Which is really helpful for us to see that it's already been implemented pretty efficiently in a couple other places. The 3 modules, Inchworm, Chrysalis, and Butterfly. The first 2, like I said, are in C++. And the first one basically takes the data, assembles it into these sequences, and spits it out and gives it to Chrysalis, which then takes that, creates these particular graphs for each cluster that it takes in, then passes that to Butterfly, which then processes the graphs. And this is actually already implemented in parallel because it takes so long, and it reports the full length transcripts. And these are like billions and billions of sequences that it's taking in. So they estimate that you're going to need about 1 gig of RAM for every million reads that you do for the first 2, and then Butterfly, which is in Java, it uses as much as you tell it to, but it defaults to 2 different simultaneous threads running, each using about 10 gigs. So Butterfly needs at minimum 20 gigs of RAM to run. So that's something we can look in. What's the best, how many cores should we allocate it? How much RAM should we allocate it? In terms of parallelism, they do support Slurm already. There's a pretty big base for how to implement that. And a lot of, since it is just the same instruction for multiple data, it's going to be something that we have to look into. Like, do we want to run this on a GPU? Do we want to keep it on the CPU? That kind of stuff. How can we take these really naively parallel steps and implement them efficiently? And then the Butterfly module is using Java threads, but like I said, it can be set to use more than just the 2 that it defaults to. So we want to see where we can optimize this the best, whether it's worth spending time optimizing the Java module, or if we should focus on the 2 in C++, or focus on just 1, and how exactly to run it. So like Yash had said, any suggestions, that would be great for, yes.
Have you thought about I/O? Because bioinformatics is notorious for really terrible I/O.
Yes. So we have to look at the code right now because there's no hardware in place as such. This is the early stage. There's no hardware in place right now. Giving you a ballpark also is not possible for me to say that this is where the I/O is going down. Perhaps the good part will be, again, looking for an optimization which overlaps all of these computations itself. Because it's a stage-based computation, if this thing is pipelined really well, then it can be beneficial. But if it's not, if we have just do one module once, then the next step, then the next step, then we are going to face a problem. If it's a good pipelining fit, then we can go for a better throughput kind of a solution. That has to come from looking at all the tuning norms that they have given us, and then set up the computation accordingly. The most important question that I don't have any experience with that. That's why I think how I wanted to ask the group here, has anyone has experience with Java and Java running on big clusters? How to optimize. So we would really like that. They like that part to come through, and if there is someone who has experienced this problem before, we really like some help on that, because that's not something I've seen every day. You see a Java code come by, perhaps code running on Java. So that's where we are with this. We go with the last application. Just set it up as zombie
So they try to throw code at SEC every year that exercises various parts of the stack. For us,
like gridding was a cache problem, and we never really did figure out how to do cache optimization. This one here might be sort of a cache optimization problem.
Just given our group's email ID, or if you have your ideas, something that you want to suggest us, perhaps on hardware part also, or perhaps you find something about the applications, please do get in touch with us and let us know. It's about Boston. But that's all we can say.
You can hit a lot on that too.
Okay. Hi, I'm Spencer Hans. I'm also a rising consultant. And I will give you a brief overview of Zombie Repass, which is the other application, which actually wasn't on the list that Trevor had showed before, but that is one of the applications that they have right now. So what it actually is, it's kind of an example of using HPC Repass, which is it's a C++ code created by Argonne National Labs, which is a C++ port of their Java version called Repass Symphony, which is agent-based modeling. So it simulates like interactions between different agents, and that so this kind of is like their HPC version of that, which is supposedly more powerful and it has less of the features and the overhead that Java one has, and obviously runs a lot faster. So it's optimized for more parallel usage and uses MPI. So the overview of actually how it does these calculations, it uses creates a context which has encapsulates all of the agents, and then it creates projections, which is sort of where the actual interactions occur. So in some cases, like a grid connection where you're creating like a two-dimensional grid where all the agents are placed, or a network for continuous space, and it executes in ticks, so it kind of has its own sort of time interval where every tick and some events happen, and it uses an event scheduler that that would execute that. So what it does is it breaks up the agents by process. So if you're running, let's say you have like 4 different threads, you might have 10 agents, 10 on each thread. So every thread has separate. There's no memory shared between threads basically originally. So the agents, if you had if you broke up like it breaks up the two-dimensional grid into its different two-dimensional squares, and then from there each square gets its own agents and runs separately, and it uses its event scheduler to synchronize the processes as the agents move around. So if agents are moving outside of the zone of that thread, it has to then be communicated to another thread, and it basically deletes, it destroys the agent from one thread, and then it pops up in the next thread. And then, so that's how they synchronize the whole global model. And it ends, you give it a max number of ticks for where it's to end. That's the general overview of how it works.
So coming to this overview and talking about it, then we ended up thinking about it a lot. Trinity, the Zombie Repass, and Wharf in general, they are low on their GPU dependence. What is like heavily GPU dependent might be Linpack and some part of it. So this is a constant trade-off that every year, like, we go through this, like, what type of accelerator, and because this year, like, our acceptance was kind of conditional in terms of use AMD, so we are looking forward for like an Optron solution, or perhaps an APU solution. I don't know how beautifully it will fit, but is it worth a try or not? I don't know. Like, Shankar can tell us a bit more. It can't compete in Optron, obviously, but on the power rating, any comment you have? Like,
Carrizo. I don't know if it's available, but it will be available later this year.
So is it before SuperCom?
Yes.
Then we can run it.
Yeah. I don't know the desktop variant. I don't know the schedule for when the laptop variant versus the desktop variant is.
Yes. So that's one of our things, and because we are looking for AMD GPUs, the latest one that they have, the 390X, I forget its name, it's PGI. That has an interesting thing. It has HBM on it, that has high bandwidth memory, the on-chip die-stack DRAM. So that is one more aspect that is available with an AMD GPU now, but not in an NVIDIA GPU, where that can be brought into the perspective of the performance itself. So that's it for our competition. And if you have some questions, or if you want to help out, or get in touch with us, nusc@googlegroups.com is our email.
So we wanted to reserve the last half hour for Brian DeLacy.
I think you should just keep going with questions.
Well, we kind of turned it out this way. No, you want to go, Brian?
So just a quick pitch. I mean, in August, we'll be talking about open WRT, so people who are interested in unextended data systems. And, you know, I've got some preview slides, but it's a little bit disjointed from supercomputing. So I don't want to drive people's brains. But if anybody's interested in open WRT, how many people know what an open WRT is? So actually, so a lot. How many people are using the latest builds off of Trump? Like, what do people know? What version of OpenWRT they're using? Do people know what version of the hardware?
Currently, I am porting OpenWorks kernel patches to work on the Debian kernel for a sort of project that is stealing from those who
left the power supply up here.
So I'll have a handful of different routers in August running different versions of OpenWRT in different. And if anybody's interested in demoing stuff, I welcome that, I'm sure. Or if anybody has any questions about what we might talk about, I just say if you want to buy, I'll be here for a while, kind of connecting a few things up on the MIT network.
I've actually been running Jim Getty's version of it. He called it Zero WRT. He's used for doing research on buffer bloat. I just checked his webpage a couple days ago, and it said that they've ended the project and all their work has been folded back into OpenWRT. So they'll be upgraded pretty soon. What was that?
All that stuff has been ported back into the stock.
Yeah, that's what it said on the webpage.
The guy I've been talking to a lot is Dave Ted, who I don't know if people know, but he's kind of like, him and Jim Keddies are two of the principals in what John was just talking about. Another guy I've been talking to is this guy Felix, I don't know if you know, who's like one of the core developers of OpenWRT. And we'll have almost certainly one of them online through some form of Skype interaction or something like that. So we'll have a pretty good developer input. If people have specific questions on that, we'll be able to address them. Sure. So it'll be both application oriented as well as technically oriented.
Will you be covering using it for IPv6?
IPv6 seems like it's a whole different animal entirely. So I wouldn't venture to offer that as like a main line, but we can talk about it, sure. Any other questions or levels of interest in OpenWRT? It really is very cool stuff. If you aren't using it, seems like half the folks here are using it. It is. For the other half, you can go. You can pick up a $20 router, real cheap, and you can check the hardware compatibility. Check the hardware compatibility. I got a bag full of them here. That the OpenWRT.org website has an excellent hardware list of devices that are compatible. My advice would be, I'd spend $20 to get the cheap one. On the other hand, the more you spend, the more powerful the builds are that you can use, and the easier it is in some sense to get up and running. So, but yeah, it's good. I've used, I've got like 4 TP-Link things running, and I've got a couple of other ones as well. So. Thanks. Anything else, Kurt? Does that pretty much cover it?
That's about it, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Just a show of hands, how many people are planning on going to the brewery afterwards? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Kurt, are you going or not?
No, I can't. No.
Okay. So I got 7. Did you raise your hand in the back? No. Okay. Okay, so we got 7 people going, I think. maybe with one or two maybe. Now, who's gonna walk over there?